Give back, make an impact, build your career. Non-code contribution to open source. Hi, my name is Ulrike Strommer, and I'm working as a requirements engineer and Scrum Master at Cloudflight, formerly known as Catalyst. We produce tailor-made software. I'm also Vice Chair of Drupal Austria. For those who don't know Drupal, this is a content management software. It's actually the largest open source community in the world with 1.3 million members. And I'm founder of Open Minds. This is an event with more than 400 participants to highlight and celebrate Austrian open source heroes and heroines. And today I'm going to talk about open source, how I got into contributing, although I'm not able to code, and what I achieved so far and what I got back. So briefly, the content of my talk. We will start with how I got into open source. Then we will talk about what is open source, what's the definition. I will share my experiences on how I got involved, and you will learn types of non-code contribution and some benefits that you could get back if you would contribute. Then there'll be a short summary and further readings. And I'll also share my why and of course my contact details, because I'm happy. In case you have any questions or anything, any feedback after the talk, I'm happy if you contact me. So me and Drupal, or how I got into open source. Actually, therefore, we have to go back a few years. I was not at Cloudflight back then. I was working in a Drupal agency. I was doing project management and consulting. And that's where it all started. We were working with Drupal, the content management system, and there was this local camp in Vienna. But actually, I was not very sure if I would belong there, because I'm not a developer. My colleagues, my developer colleagues, they kind of dragged me with them and convinced me that I could join. And for the first talk, I went on my own because my colleagues would go to more technical talks. Next to me, there were some guys, and we soon started talking. It was really nice. Just at one point, they showed me the name badge, and yes, it was written project manager below the name, and they told me that this was a bad joke by their boss, that he registered them as project managers. So when I told them that I was a project manager myself, they stopped talking to me, which was really, really weird and awkward and embarrassing. And it really didn't help my imposter syndrome and the doubts I had before joining the conference. It was really not a good feeling. Luckily enough, my colleagues picked me up, and the rest of the camp was really, really great and interesting. And we all together went to the after party. Here was this internationally famous Drupalista who started talking to me, and at some point she asked me if I would join the sprint the next day. A sprint, this is something where you sit together and program together, work on bugs or on new features for your software. So I thought I wouldn't belong there, and I laughed and I said that I was not a developer. And I thought she would walk away immediately. But at this point, something quite unexpected happened. And because she always begged me, please, please come. We need you even more. We have plenty of developers. And wow, that moment quite changed a lot in my life. It laid the foundation of my career in open source. I'll answer later on why open source needs developers and non-developing skills alike. now I would first of all like to create a mutual understanding of what open source is, because I see a lot of people talk about open source and a lot of people think they know, but quite often it turns out quite only a few really know. So what about you? What is open source? Open source software means that you release the source code of your software under a license, and this license allows it to be freely used, modified, and shared by others. I'd also like to mention the Open Source Initiative, which has been for more than 20 years the instance to promote and protect open source and communities. In other words, from opensource.com, the term open source refers to something people can modify and share because its design is publicly accessible. The core values of open exchange, the core values are open exchange and collaboration. This, it derives from software, but now the concept is being applied to many other areas like open source hardware or open content like Wikipedia, open data or open science. And open source really is all around us, literally in your pocket. You might recognize the Android logo, the operating system for mobile devices, the Linux Penguin, which represents one of the most successful open source products in general, and other prime examples like Apache, which runs about 6 on 67 of all web servers in the world. Also Internet Explorers like Mozilla Firefox and Chromium, which is the project behind Google Chrome, and of course the full Office suite, LibreOffice. I've also created an overview of open source communities in Austria, and don't even try to read it. This slide is just here to show you there's many. For example, Angular has 1,400 members, PHP 1,000, WordPress 1,200 members in Austria. And now let's go back to Drupal and what happened to me. Hereinafter, I always prepared 2 slides. The red one to show you some examples, what you could do, how you could contribute to open source. So it's what you do. And the white one showing what you get back or how I benefited personally. So white is what you get. Actually, I never went to that sprint in Vienna. I still was too shy, nervous, feeling insecure. But at the next event, which was DrupalCon Dublin, I read on Twitter that they were still looking for volunteers, and I found the courage in myself to give it a try. The tasks that I had to do were really easy. I had to welcome the speakers before their talks and ask if they need something. I had to count the people in the room for statistical reasons. And during the Q&A sessions, I should ask the people to step up to the microphone because the sessions were being recorded. What I got back in Dublin? Well, first of all, a really cool DrupalCon t-shirt in a special color. You have to understand that at community events, the people who make it happen are the cool kids, and they are really very much appreciated. So wearing this t-shirt and being visible in the session rooms, talking to the speakers, asking for the use of the microphone, this got me known amongst participants. And I also got some thank yous, which was really nice. I realized only later that the speaker contact was incredibly valuable because they remember you, because you helped them. And normally it's not that easy because the speakers, they are the knowing ones, they are famous in the community. Everybody wants to talk to them. So this was really cool and helpful for my own future. And it helped a bit in my fight with imposter syndrome, because I realized that speakers are normal people with the same fears. Do you know a hyper-communicative extrovert programmer? So marketing and writing are often not typical strengths of a developer. That's why communities are really thankful about your help in these fields. I mean, it's perfectly fine if you're not the perfect writer. It's still something that you can help with. Because you can learn and experiment, and you're in a safe environment, because everybody knows if you don't do it, there's nothing. So no worries if you're not a pro. I think I'm in charge of 8 social media channels and at least 2 websites, apart from my private ones, of course. And yes, I was really scared and insecure when I first posted something as Drupal Austria. Now fine, I got feedback and I learned. I read about how to create a press release and I asked some friends. It's still not the best public relations ever, but I can see, oh, sorry. I can see that I am improving. And the cool thing is that I'm learning by doing, and my self-confidence grows with it, with every tiny step that I make out of my comfort zone. I also learned a lot about Drupal and open source, also about how to write a press release, what works on social media and what doesn't. And it was all new and crazy, but still I gave it a try and I grew myself. Here you can see some pictures of the DrupalCon in Vienna, where I've been on stage dancing the Git song. It was an incredibly crazy experience, but yep, great one. What you can always help with is share your knowledge. Because remember, the success of others leads to the success of your project and supports your own success. Did you ever hear a developer over-explain tech stuff? Please try and help people succeed with your software, from beginners to experts, from user to developer. If you're looking for especially info and can't find it easily, please prepare and provide this info for the next one. Answer questions raised in issues, in forums, on Stack Overflow, or on social media. And you can help with localizing your project and translate your software. Here, for example, the pictures show us during translation sprints, because we were helping to get the German translation of Drupal 8 to 100%. First of all, we had to find a process and a how-to that a lot of people would like to follow, and that was consistent because the German translation is important for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And what I got back, this pairing up with a developer resulted in great know-how transfer, and I could gain more and more fundamental knowledge about my project. Spread the word. Well, obviously, you can hold a talk, but you can start really easy by saying thank you, by retweeting and sharing some content, or by making the work of others visible. This is really impactful. So the constant appreciation, the need of something to be done better than nothing, and the many, many thank yous that I got that really let me grow. In the picture on top, this is DrupalCon thank you dinner for the volunteers. It's an international group of people. And the other one is from Open Minds, from Stage with Johannes Grenzwörtner, a picture. Really, really awesome. All my contributions, it was not planned to be like this, but it came back and it was good. It helped me find something to write in my CV. And I really need to give a special mention to Jill Binder and her diversity speaker workshop, which was brought to me by the Drupal community, because this helped me gain the courage to propose a talk and stand here in front of you today. Give back, that's what you should do. I, for example, I use this password managing software called KeePass. And from time to time, I offer the amount of a beer to the developer to say a small thank you. You can always mentor others and be a role model. And what I did in my special case, with three other people, I invented Open Minds. And oops, too far. That's an award for open source projects and contributions from Austria, with an after-show party, a Viennese ball, but not the traditional one, more a fun, weird technology event. We had more than 400 participants last time, and the goal was to provide a stage for open source in Austria and make open source and the contributors more visible. Say thank you for the hard work of individuals that often work in the spare time to help society. Connect communities and individuals, network and celebrate, of course. We had 4 main categories: open software, open data, open hardware, with our partner communities from Linux Wochen, Internet of Things, Circular Economy Club, and the Open Knowledge Foundation. And we even have some brochures, which is a cool thing to have it in your hand. And even now, when I see the photos again, all the brochures, I'm amazed myself upon what's possible and what you can achieve if you believe in something. I mean, remember the organization team, most of the time it was 4 people, and we did everything in our spare time. So, wow. I'm happy that it turned out like this. You can see even Max Schreims held a keynote for us. So what am I getting back? As I said before, it was not the purpose of my contributions. It kind of happened on the way, and it's great. I am being asked regularly by companies if I want to join. I finally found the courage to apply at Catalyst's Cloudflight, because I was looking at the company for 2 to 3 years, and I was not brave enough, but the success in the open source world made it possible for me to apply, and I got the job, and this is great. I've been invited to the advisory board for the speaker selection of We Are Developers World Congress 2018, with 8,000 attendees in Vienna, the largest event for developers in Europe. And it was really an interesting experience to sit on the other side and receive anonymous talk proposals. Also, I got a free ticket to the con. I've also been invited as a jury member for the Swiss Splash Awards. The Splash Awards is organized all over the world to celebrate the best Drupal projects worldwide. Also very valuable experience, how to judge a web project, and interesting contexts, of course. Also interesting insights, and again, an invitation to the conference in Zurich. I was also invited to DrupalCon Europe on stage. I was part of the pre-note, and we also had the second performance on stage in front of 1,600 international developers and non-developing Drupalistas. And last but not least, my contribution provides me with a topic and the courage to stand here on stage at Women Tech Makers and hold a talk today. So what now? If you're interested, how could you get started? I think the best way would be to just look at the open source projects you work with. In my opinion, it's really important to check if they have an awesome community, and that you need to make sure that you feel welcome. If you find an open source project you love, just get involved. Don't overthink it. Just try. But one advice that is important to me: stay considerate with your time, because really open source can be very demanding. There will be a version of the slides that I will distribute, and I included some links for you, how to contribute, how to fund a project, and so on. So give back, make an impact, build your career. Do it for the right reasons. As for me, I step by step kind of dive deeper into it, and it really was empowering. And as my experiences are that great, I'd like to spread the word and show opportunities for everyone. Because you need to think or remember that you devote your time, yes, but you don't need monetary investments like expensive courses or certificates. You can try if the dev scene is the right thing for you. You can learn and improve your social and your coding skills, of course. I'd highly recommend this for young people and also for career changes. And again, why open source needs you, even if you're not a developer yet? Because developers usually want to focus on only one thing, and that is code. Of course, some programmers have fun organizing, doing marketing stuff and so on. But the overall majority just wants to code. Also, can you imagine how important the knowledge you bring can be? And an outlook regarding the open source idea, which is now being applied to many other areas, such as open source ecology, a movement to decentralize technologies so that any human can use them. The same principles that underlie open source software can be found in many other ventures, such as open source hardware, Wikipedia, and open access publishing. Collectively, these principles are known as open source, open content, and open collaboration. Again, so far. The same principles that underlie open source software can be found in many other ventures. Oh, been there. There's even an open source tomato seed, an answer to the big seed monopolies that sell seeds that don't reproduce themselves anymore. I think it's been invented by a German professor at the German university. Why? Why am I here? Why am I holding this talk? Why I'm devoting my time? Because really, I do wish for my little daughter and for all of us that open source values like open exchange, collaboration, transparency, and the focus on humans, community, shape the future of our society. I really think the open source way provides an answer to some of the socio-economical questions we currently face. So maybe you could join me. Maybe you want to get started. Really feel free to reach out to me, no matter what question you have. I'm more than happy to help. Together we're strong, and community is king and queen.
Thank you, Uli, for this talk. Would you like to come here on stage to do a little Q&A? I guess you like to. Hi, how are you today?
Hi. Great, thank you.
That's good to hear.
I'm wondering if there's already some questions in the audience.
Yeah, I'm looking onto that right now. Well, let's start with one question that came to my mind, because well, as part of the organization team of Women Tech Makers, I was also involved when it came to our call for speakers and when we had to choose whom to take. And what came to my attention was, and what rose my attention was, that we had a lot of proposals regarding open source. And you know what I mean? There are always these buzzwords going on. Like some years ago, it was wearables. Right now, it's AIT. So of course, we got proposals regarding these buzzwords. I'm not meaning that in a negative sense. But open source, well, at least in my world, that wasn't trending right now. So I'm asking you, because you have a deep insight, do you see that open source starts trending again? And
has grown up. Now that big companies are adapting open source software, which has not been true in the last years. It has been quite a struggle to
Uli,
get the public trust in open source projects and open source software, to get it into company bad.
You do have a bad connection, unfortunately. So, but what I heard was that you're saying that especially bigger companies are starting to invest in open source, right?
Yes. And I think it has
for monetary reasons?
I think the trust has been built, and open source software in many cases overruled. It's gotten better than proprietary software. Big companies used to be skeptical about investing in open source. They didn't trust the software. They didn't trust the communities. But now it has proven that it can bring the best result. And more industries adopt open source.
We got a question.
So I think it has really grown up.
That's really positive to know that it's growing. Oh, Ulrike, now your video is gone. I hope you can still hear me. We received a question from our audience, from Timia, and she's asking, do companies you work for support a person also contributing to open source? And she's pointing out that in her company, working with open source was a sort of legal concern. So that the legal concern was the reason why they didn't work with open source. Ulrike, if you're back with us, is that something you would agree on, the legal aspect? Yes, I heard you saying yes. So you would definitely say also legal issue were an issue why companies didn't.
Well, it really depends.
Open source.
It really depends on how you use and what you.
Unfortunately, you're back again.
I'm back again. Can you hear me? I'm really sorry. It seems that I'm having troubles with my internet connection.
You actually, what we heard you answering the questions.
The questions in the chat, though.
Yes, that's a really good idea, because I would suggest that we go into the break and that we're going to play a video of our partners again. And I would ask you to answer the questions in the chat. That would be awesome, Uli, because your connection is slightly bad. See and hear from you in the channel, okay? Allow all the rest of us, let's enjoy the break, okay?